Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course, stream for fun. Today we're going to be doing gaming news again, as we do this on a weekly basis. This is January 29th through February 2nd. What we're going to be talking about is we're going to be talking about something that the studio that made The Day Before said. And no, it's not good. We're also going to be talking about Suicide Squad. We'll also be having an update on Skull and Bones, actually. And that'll be something I will stream later. We're also going to have a slight little update on PalWorlds, and then we're going to talk about Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown and how they're doing, and how honestly it might be a failure. So thanks for tuning in, folks. You can always follow me over at YouTube at GamingGarbage22. You can also follow me over at Twitch at Don't Tread on Thee. And if you'd like to leave a comment or have concerns or want to leave me a private message, you can go and leave a comment on the YouTube video, and then you can private message me if you like as a whisper on Twitch. Also, too, thanks for liking and subbing and subscribing, or at least considering. But really, I think the channel is going to grow by you guys actually sharing the content. So thank you for doing that. So let's go ahead and dig right into it. One thing I want to add real quick. I mentioned a few weeks ago that Microsoft has something through Xbox and through Bing where basically you can earn Microsoft or Xbox points to eventually turn that in, right, into like gift cards, or actually deposit that into your bank. And they've had this program for a while, mostly for Bing, and they've also had it for Game Pass a little bit. Game Pass you don't earn really too much. I still feel like you can earn the most on Bing, but I did an update again a few weeks ago saying that a lot of the things you could do with Bing got changed in point value from like 10 or 5 to now 1 or just 2 points. Well, they've changed that back. Everything now is again basically mostly 10 points, and there's maybe 1 or 2 that are 5 points. And so I think they heard maybe enough people complain, and so they're putting the point values back, which is really nice. And I just turned in enough points to get $10 for free, 9,300 by the way, and that $10 went toward Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 Remaster. So I bought that yesterday, and I'll be showcasing that on the channel right around February 13th. So you can stay tuned for that. But yeah, I wanted to give that update because it is pretty discouraging to have a lower point value. But now that they've actually put those point values back, it's easier to gain points again. So stay consistent with it, folks. You can, in my opinion, if you work at it, you can basically get $10 every couple of months, maybe 2.5 months. And, that equates to like $40, $50 a year of just basically free games. So who doesn't like that? And it doesn't take very much of your time. You just have to set up an account, link up your Xbox account to Bing.com, and create a little account there with Microsoft, which you have already. You just have to link it with Bing, and then just use Bing, the search engine, with the little things and the little tasks, and you'll earn points. It's honestly been a great way to get some free money. So let's go ahead and get to the news. So The Day Before, we know that this was a catastrophic failure. Everybody pretty much knew what this game was. This was the most wish-listed game on Steam in history. It will probably hold that record for quite some time. And The Day Before was delayed. I mean, a couple of years, basically, it was delayed. There was a lot of stuff, too, during development that was very sketchy. There was a lot of kind of mysterious stuff around it. First we got to see some things with like maybe Silent Hill. We got to see some things maybe like with adding to The Last of Us, or attributing to that. We maybe saw something with Kojima Productions, something maybe with Metal Gear. I mean, it was very just kind of iffy of exactly what was going on here. And finally, we got an idea about what the game was like, right? It was going to be a post-apocalyptic thing. It was supposed to be like an extraction shooter. Well, then it turned into more of a survival game. And I mean, it was just not turning out like it was supposed to. And when it launched, good gravy, there were so many people interested, for better or worse, There were so many people interested. There were tens of thousands trying to log in. Their servers were crashing. They couldn't keep up. And within 4 days, they shut down the game. And some people were still crazy enough, in my opinion, that they spent hundreds of dollars trying to get these, you know, CD keys to still install and play the game and give it a shot. And then the servers were shut down, and so it was basically worthless anyway because you couldn't even play the game because you had to have an internet connection, I believe. And yeah, what a bummer. Found out too that just a lot of gameplay videos were just getting worse too. I mean, we could kind of see this coming, and I think that's what sparked so much interest in the game, is just because, is this game even real? Is it even going to come out? And when it was, it's like, oh my word, let's actually see, let's stream this. And yeah, the game failed pretty hard by its development and how far it had come. There was even some word that some just volunteers were technically doing some of the work and development for the game, but weren't being paid really in any way. And yeah, this really just left a bad taste in their mouth. Very soon after, the next day after they shut the servers down, they had the studio, they had a new name already, which was Straight 8, if I remember correctly. They also have a new game that's already coming out. And people are on that like flies on honey, just making sure people know, hey folks, this is the Old Fantastic making this game. Please be careful. Please don't buy it, because yeah, they scammed so many people. Fantastic has reiterated, it's like, hey, we didn't get any money from this. Everybody has gotten their refunds back. Well, it's really because you guys got caught. You guys made a horrible game, even worse than Game Mill Studios, what they put out, like Rise of Kong and Walking Dead Destinies. I mean, for Pete's sakes, those games are horrible, but at least they're actually a game. And yeah, they made almost they made a few $1 million with the amount of people that actually bought the Walking the day before. Supposedly everybody has gotten their refunds that wanted them, but some people didn't do it, so they actually did get some of that money. They didn't walk away with just nothing. A publisher did too, of course. Hopefully their partners did. Yeah, boy, what a mess. And so Fantastic basically put out and said that the game was a failure mainly because, this is crazy, because there was a hate campaign by bloggers and YouTubers. I'm not even kidding. They're blaming the YouTubers. They're blaming the people that actually streamed the game for ruining it. For just calling it out and pointing out all of the horrible things about the game, saying that it turned into a hate campaign and that they just decided to shut the servers down. Initially it was they couldn't support it, right? And that it was going to be a way bigger project than they thought was possible. So they just couldn't do it, and now they're saying, they shut it down because the hate campaign made them, basically. Basically, we complaining about a game being horrible made the game shut down. And people that are doing honest reviews and showing really what something is like, even though it's early access, is like, look, this is not even beta. Okay, we're not even close to alpha at this point. We're like alpha stage 1, maybe, with the type of stuff that was there. The audio was messed up. There were performance issues. The servers were crashing. There was enormous problems with gigantism with some characters running around in the hub and stuff. I mean, everything was just messed up. The game was crashing for folks. It was a total mess. But yeah, they're blaming us. They're blaming those that actually do the news, that were showing the stream and all that stuff. And I say good to that, honestly. We need to hold the industry accountable. We have so many games that are trash. I mean, we throw hundreds of millions away every year to companies and to publishers and developers and to games that don't deserve to be bought, honestly, or DLC or content or whatever, because it's just sickening how scammy things have gotten. And in a way, I do hope it gets regulated to some point, because it is just a waste of talent and resources to even begin to make some of these games. Like, we had so many horrible games last year in 2023. It just blew me away, and we covered that on the channel. But man, and too, a lot of disappointments. We had some really good games as well, luckily, to counterbalance that, but I have never seen so much disparity excuse me, in the gaming industry between wonderful games and horrible games. And the day before was definitely a horrible one. So yeah, just thought that was really interesting. But yeah, remember folks, remember to save your money, even if it's early access. I thought $40 was a little much. We knew this game was going to be a mess. But yeah, $40 is still a little much for early access. But think about what you're spending your money on, okay? Because ultimately, if we don't buy the trash, they're not going to make trash. And some companies are going to have to feel some pain. There's going to have to be some layoffs. I understand all of that. And, you know, I don't want devs to lose their job. Maybe they're really good at their job. But, folks, if we don't apply any pain now and continue to do that, the industry is not going to improve. They're just going to want to be able to make the least amount possible, shove out whatever quality they can, and then have us pay $100 for it, you know, which is insane. And this gets to my next thing. You know, talking about another game that's not doing very good, this is Suicide Squad. So they had early access that had to be taken down, unfortunately, because there was a glitch where as soon as you logged in with early access, which you paid money for, by the way, you beat the game. You couldn't even play it. You'd literally get something on the screen that says, hey, as soon as you'd log in, hey, you beat the game, congratulations. It's like, what? So yeah, people couldn't even play the game. They were stuck on that screen. And so again, it's just another example of just early access being a waste of money. It's just hilarious. Usually there's also no refunds with early access. You also have all of the issues and bugs too. Nothing's been fixed, right? You know, definitely they don't quality test like they used to. If we remember, folks, they fired a lot of quality testers last year. That was actually some entire departments. It's just like, yep, like EA, we're just getting rid of all of our quality testers. You know, we'll outsource it to somebody else to do the quality testing for us, which of course is not as good. And the games show that. I mean, we have some of the buggiest games last year. And early access, in my opinion, for a few days early, has been actually quite a big failure. Some people make money, certainly like Hogwarts Legacy did, so did Starfield, but not all of these games are worth it for some people. And it's not like you get a guarantee or a refund or anything. If you spend that $30 for early access, well, and if you don't like it, you know, bummer. You just blew that money. And with stuff still being pretty expensive and wages not really keeping up for the most part for a lot of people, a lot of us are feeling the pain, folks. Early access really isn't worth it for a lot of us because it's a gamble. And then again, nothing's been fixed. So all of the issues that are going to show up, you're literally paying for the worst experience possible for the highest dollar amount for a video game. And yeah, Suicide Squad is just another example of this. Also, too, players realized that when they decided to do the deluxe edition or whatever, you know, you're supposed to be able to get a classic bundle of all of the old costumes for the characters in the game of Suicide Squad, like Deadshot, you know, Captain Boomerang, Shark Boy, I think his name is, and of course, Harley Quinn. But the problem is a lot of people, you know, they're spending $100 for the classic bundle, and they realize not all of the classic skins are in that $100 that they spent. Most of the bundle is still there for them to purchase later through live service microtransactions, and they only get one skin per character, so you get a total of 4, but you don't get the entire thing. So again, people kind of felt like they got gypped. It does state in there, you know, in the fine print and kind of small disclosures that, hey, you're only going to get one skin per character, total of 4. So it is laid out, but a lot of people just didn't read the fine print, which is fine print on purpose, right? And so, yeah, people spent $100 thinking they're going to get them all, and they didn't. And so, again, that's another example of why people feel like they're kind of wasting their wasting their money on Suicide Squad. And also, another thing that was crazy with Suicide Squad, there's no review copies. So a couple of the channels that I watched are like, yeah, no review copies for this one, folks. You're going to have to wait until we can actually get a review out when we actually buy the game and, you know, get some content for it, get some streaming done, show you the video, you know, run through what we thought, good and bad, about the game. But yeah, no review copies, which just shows me that they knew this game was gonna bomb. They knew that people really weren't gonna be happy. Even though this was coming from Rocksteady, a studio that made a wonderful series with the Batman Arkham games, they knew that it wasn't gonna, meet expectations. And this brings me to why 100 Star Studios exists. It's a gaming studio where the co-founders of Rocksteady decided to start a different studio so they can make the games that they want. And they also took some of the kind of like mid leadership and directors and developers and stuff. They took quite a few people with them, and basically it's 100 people, many from Rocksteady, to make the games that they want to make, like the Batman Arkham games. Free market, folks. That's what we want. And it's going to be more competition for actual Rocksteady. And unfortunately, even though a lot of the devs are still there, Rocksteady is not the same company, because a lot of the leadership wasn't listened to or wasn't willing to be adhered to, and so they left and started their own studio. Frick yeah, all the more power to them. I'm excited to see what their first project is going to be, which they're working on right now. And so, yeah, Suicide Squad, when we take a look at the numbers here, on Metacritic, so far, just on PlayStation, is a 61 out of 100. User score, there's been a few of those, but not enough to actually produce a score. So far, this isn't looking very good. We also had IGN, basically say, hey, we've actually played it at this point. Not really impressed. And just kind of a bummer. And, it's games like Suicide Squad that is going to kill studios, especially when they're changing the dynamic or the equation in which they're building games and how they're building those games. If they're moving away from their reputation and doing something to make it worse to the consumer base, well, guess what? Those games really aren't going to do that well. And eventually, if it happens enough, the studio is just going to get killed off. Kind of like Square Enix in a way. Square Enix used to make some really fun, wonderful games, and now they've just had a lot of just kind of Ubisoft too. That was another one. Had some wonderful games, but lately they just really haven't been doing that well. And they've also been having, issues within the company, within the publisher, and developer differences, and we've even seen that now with Modern Warfare 3 and some other games too. Just the quality of games is going down, folks, and the studios that we grew up with, most of the time, they are not the same. And if there's still studios that we love today, I still worry about their future when they get new leadership, because they can change. Like From Software, Nintendo, some of the publishers that Nintendo owns, like the Pokemon Company, they haven't innovated, and then PalWorld comes along and totally changes everything and basically makes, Pokemon with guns, with survival mechanics and other things, and crafting and farming and whatever, base building. I mean, that's kind of everything we've wanted in a game. Take My Time at Persia or Stardew Valley, shove it into a 3D environment with cartoony, monsters, 111 of them, and guess what? You get PalWorld. I mean, Nintendo could have easily done that with the Pokemon Company, a decade before, to make that type of a game with Pokemon, but since there wasn't any competition, they didn't have to. And now they have competition, so we're going to have to see where that goes. So that leads into my next thing, is PalWorlds. There's now 12 million... excuse me, there's now 12 million people that have bought it on Steam. They've sold 12 million copies, and there's 7 million people playing the preview version on Xbox, which is crazy. That is a ton of people. Yeah, it's a ton. That's about 20% of the people that own Xboxes today are playing PalWorlds, or at least some of them. Recently, their 24-hour peak was still 1.3 million, and they surpassed Dota 2 in hours played by millions. And they're well on their way to be the biggest game on Steam charts. And for them to be unseated in the future is going to take a really amazing game. But yeah, PalWorlds has produced basically, what we've wanted as a player base. And it's really jived with a lot of people. And I've mentioned too that Nintendo really has to be careful because, there are some legal issues there. They are doing an investigation. But, if they basically take PalWorld down and they don't present it very well, people are going to get pissed. And Nintendo's just going to hurt their future reputation for future Pokemon games, I think. Some people would just be like, nope, you literally destroyed the game that I loved, and screw you. And so now I'm not going to buy your game. So, innovating is huge, folks. If you can come up with something that other people haven't yet, or provided something that customers are looking for, in whatever industry, you can make a ton of money. So, and you'll make a lot of people happy too. Yeah, I just think that's crazy. So, moving on to Ubisoft. Right now, they are no longer having a closed beta. I was kind of surprised, but instead, we're having an open beta now for Skull and Bones. And so, Skull and Bones has been like 7 years into development, or no more than that. I think it's like closer to 10, or like 8 or 10 years now. It's been forever. It's been like since 2015 or something that they've been working on this. This originally, too, was supposed to be DLC, a second DLC for Assassin's Creed Black Flag, but Ubisoft didn't want to do it that way. They wanted to make a whole nother game, and if they executed it right, awesome, it'd be great, but they had some closed betas. I was able to do one myself last year. Oh my word. What a disappointment. What a frustration. I wrote a novel of things that they could fix in the game. I am kind of curious to see if they did, because now we have this open beta from February 8th through the 11th, and crossplay is going to be enabled. And I'm going to make sure, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that I play it in the coming days, because I really want to see, because I was a part of that closed beta, and part of just my own curiosity, I want to play it and see what it's like. All progress is going to be carried over to launch. The regular game is going to be $60, not $70. I think they know that $70 is going to be a hard sell. And the deluxe is going to be $90. And with that, you'll get 3 days early access. What's kind of funny, though, is that if they're providing an open beta for 3 days, people are going to be able to play the game for free, essentially. Anybody. You can go... I think you have to go through Ubisoft Play or go through the Epic Game Store. But you can get your CD code for free, basically, on PC. And then the same with PlayStation and Xbox. Just go to the store and download the open beta and play it during that time. So you're going to be seeing that here on the channel. Go ahead and stay tuned for that. But it just makes me kind of laugh, because it seems like they just made their early access worthless. Like, why are you going to pay $30 to play a few days early when you can just play a few days early for free to see if you even want to buy the game? So this could really backfire on Ubisoft. They could lose some serious money on this. They probably will lose money on this. If we got the numbers, this is probably one of the biggest, most expensive games that has been made by Ubisoft. Because, there were some aspects in the beta that were actually pretty fun. And I could see what they were going for. But boy, they really need to take some time to flush some stuff out. And, man, I'm hoping they do. I want the game to be successful. I just don't have high hopes. Because Ubisoft just hasn't really made fun games in quite some time. I think the one that I enjoyed the most recently, was probably Far Cry 5. I haven't played Far Cry 6. I haven't played like Motorfest. I haven't played Avatar. Those people really seem to like that one. But yeah, I haven't just been like drawn in, in one of their games for a while. And they're just kind of losing their luster a little bit, I think. Which is kind of sad. Which this brings me into another game of Ubisoft's, Prince of Persia Lost Crown. Unfortunately, it may be a failure. So we were actually able to get some numbers from Ubisoft on how many copies they've sold so far. Now, again, this is only 2 weeks in. Usually it takes a few months to really see kind of the trajectory of where things are going. But we're looking at only 300,000 players have paid for the game so far. And that's about $15 million in revenue. And they had a budget of just making the game of $100 million. This doesn't include licensing. This doesn't include marketing, which marketing is very, very expensive, folks. It's basically Excuse me. It's basically about usually a third of a game's budget. Marketing is huge. They spend so much money on that, and licensing is expensive too. With whatever they have to pay for, whether it's visuals or character models or music. Usually music. But yeah, with 300,000 doing the math, yeah, they've only made at max $15 million, and that's if everyone actually paid for the $50 price tag. And so if we project out at what they're doing so far, 300,000 sales basically in 2 weeks, and we project that out, in 2 months they'll sell 1.6 million copies, and 1.6 million would get them at let me see, would get them at about like $80 million. So they're still not going to quite break even with that. They're going to have to sell some more copies to actually get there. They'll need to sell at least 2 million at full price in order to break even just for making the game. And again, doesn't include licensing, doesn't include marketing. So one of the games they did have was, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. That sold 10 million copies in 2 months. And if we break that down, that's 2 million, let's see. That'd be 8 weeks. And so they're selling over 1 million copies a week. That's pretty quick. And right now, Prince of Persia is selling 150,000 copies per week. They're way below where they need to be, and I don't think Prince of Persia is really going to make them money. I think people are going to wait for a sale, because again, folks, this is not the Prince of Persia that we wanted. Not at all. So frustrating. You can't even buy most of the Prince of Persias right now anyway, unless you have the physical disc and you have a 360. You can buy Prince of Persia Forgotten Sands, which is the last one that they made, but that is a full, 3D open, kind of semi-open world environment, and was fun. And when we got Prince of Persia on PlayStation 2, that game was a blast. I really loved and enjoyed that. We were also supposed to get a remaster, which we haven't seen or heard anything about. I think they totally scrapped the project. They also didn't, try to remaster like a collection and try to do that again, or try to even bring that to Xbox. They did make something like that for PlayStation 3. Again, I understand that was a long time ago, but they could have at least ported it over to Xbox to try to get some more sales, or focus a little more heavily on making those remasters, because that's really kind of what we want. Or make a, kind of gamble a little bit and make a whole new game. And technically they did make a whole new game, but it's not the Prince of Persia, folks. It's not the Prince of Persia. It's not something that we wanted. We didn't want a side-scroller. And, Prince of Persia, honestly, when I saw it the first time, I thought, man, that's kind of a step back. That's kind of a bummer. And Prince of Persia is doing very well, actually, as a score. It's got an 86 on Metacritic and a user score of 90 out of 100. It's doing great, okay? And that is hundreds or like a couple thousand reviews so far for the game. It's doing really good. But again, I think it's a niche. It's only for people that kind of enjoy side-scrollers, but it's not catered or, really preferred by the bulk of the audience that, grew up playing Prince of Persia. Because again, we're talking generations earlier, we had three-dimensional environments. We could like reverse time with the Sands of Time and stuff, and there were different boss fights and different environments and areas to explore. It was great for PlayStation. That was amazing. And they expanded on a lot of stuff in the further iterations of the game. Prince of Persia 2 and Prince of Persia 3, basically. And then nothing for quite a while. And then the new game that we get is a side-scroller. No, I'm sorry, that's just not what we want. I really think they fumbled the ball on this one. And when you make a game that isn't going to sell well, whether it's not what people want, or it's horrible, or buggy, or whatever, you're just going to burn money. And this is what we've seen with Ubisoft already, is they've canceled multiple projects. Like Immortals Phoenix Rising. And I really wonder, too, if X Defiant, their free-to-play game, basically Call of Duty free-to-play, is now canceled. Again, that's another game we haven't heard anything on. They're just not talking about it. We're not seeing anything about it. It's just kind of weird. And instead, we got to see Prince of Persia. And again, I don't think it's a bad game. I showcased it on the channel. It's just not for me. But the game ran. It worked. There were different, gear. There's different ways to kind of level up. There were skills you could work into. It was actually fairly well fleshed out. But again, I just don't want a side-scroller when I've already had a game in 3D. I just feel like it's going back. It'd be like if you took Metal Gear Solid or Final Fantasy and turned them into a 2.5D game or turned them into a side-scroller. It's not going to flip and sell, folks. It's just not. So I do think, I'm calling it right here, I do think Prince of Persia is going to be a failure. If they do actually make their money back, which probably would have to be at least $150 million in revenue to pay for the budget, to pay for the marketing, to pay for the licensing. That's my guess. It's going to take a long flipping time to get there because it's nowhere near on track to actually be profitable. Like at the rate that Avatar was. Avatar, of course, I'm sure had a bigger budget, probably a couple million. But what's crazy is Spider-Man Miles Morales was $95 million for a budget. This had an extra $5 million for a budget, and it is just not selling. I mean, the data that we got from PlayStation through the Insomniac leak is that Miles Morales sold over 10 million copies before Christmas. That's insane. They made so much money on that. It was very profitable. But yeah, just what a disappointment. So that's what I got for you for the news. It's definitely a shorter one. Not as much to chat about this time. We're having a little bit of a lull. But boy, I am sure things are going to pick up as we head into March, the spring, and the summertime. And we're going to have showcases too. So again, I'm not going to show all of the showcases this year. And the reason being is because, I just finished looking at the PlayStation State of Play. And I feel like with Sony and Xbox, we're going to have 2 showcases a year, unfortunately. And then with Jeff Keighley, we're also going to have 2 from him with Summer Game Fest and with the Game Awards. And there's just a ton of others out there. I mean, there's Sega, there's Ubisoft, there's... I don't know. Anyway, it's there's just a lot to cover, folks. And... I only got so much time, so I'm going to cover the main ones, and, and that'll be that. Good morning, Fluffers. So, hopefully you guys are doing well. Hang in there. You made it. This is the last day of your weekend. Make sure you use it well, but also take some time for yourself, too. And sometimes, folks, I think we really just get busy, and we feel like we have to do all of this stuff to kind of, maintain or keep up appearances, or to maintain things that others expect us to. And if we've taken on the responsibility, we should. But sometimes I think we put too much on ourselves and we actually don't have time to rest because we fill our schedule full of just so much other stuff that's not really necessary, that's not really life-giving or satisfying or making our lives more joyful. So just think about that this coming week. Maybe you're just taking on a little too much, and it's okay to step back some. It's okay to let a few things go. And maybe they're really fun, but, nothing's fun if you're just absolutely exhausted. So just remember that, folks. Again, you can follow me over at GamingGarbage22 on YouTube, and you can follow me at Don't Tread on Thee on Twitch, and I'll see you guys on the next one.